later, perhaps 2 or 3 years later.
And then the last one was Dubai?
Yeah, and that was probably, some 5 or 6 years after the first one or something. Maybe.
The record, and that was it.
That was it. I wish I could have. I mean, on all those records was completely different bands.
Mm-hmm.
So, but everybody that it was on, any of them, I had played with in other contexts, during that time.
Maybe,
Yeah, well, that was his band,
Okay.
I was in his band for a little bit, and we did a record. We did 2 records. One was called Vertigo, I believe the name of it
yeah.
was.
Uh-huh.
And the other one was part of he won like a big prize. I think it was called the Jazz Par Prize at one point. And so I was in his touring band at that time, and then part of that tour was him receiving this award, this prize in Europe. And so coupled with that was a performance that they recorded, and so that was a record as well.
I see.
So all these kind of relationships. I guess the bass player on that was Peter Washington, and he and I were really good friends and still are. And we had done a lot of records and playing together just as the bass player and the drummer,
Yeah.
So we had done gigs and records and stuff like that. And then I can't remember who else. Seamus Blake, I played with him on maybe on one or 2 of his records, and then we were all just kind of. Everybody was just kind of around, so every week you're playing with somebody, and it could be a band comprised of 2 or 3 different people from
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that. The
yeah.
community, just the jazz community.
I mean, just that.
Yeah, at that time, the Criss Cross was recording a lot of what you would say unknown people. They had known people too. They had people like, Kenny Barron and Cedar Walton and Chet Baker and Jimmy Rainey and Clifford George. Like heavy, well-known, seasoned guys. That were on their label as well. But he was also kind of looking out for younger guys who maybe didn't have any kind of a name, but maybe were like younger sidemen with name people.
Right.
That somebody might be playing with Art Blakey, or somebody might be playing with Horace Silver or Betty Carter or this, that, and the other.
Right.
And so he would, hey, you're interested in recording, and so then these people would they would bring in their colleagues, and then he'd hear, then whoever they would bring in, maybe he wasn't aware of them, and then he's, oh, who's that tenor player? Oh yeah, well maybe I'll get him to do it, and then it just, that's what, real nice, real kind of
Yeah.
He was based in Holland.
Okay.
Yeah, he would come here maybe once or twice a year, and do like, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 records, like boom, 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 and at that time, CDs were, there were still stores, Tower Records and all these major chain record stores here in New York, and then there was mom and pop stores and all that kind of stuff. So the records were, you go into a record store and you'd see these records, you'd see these CDs, what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like it is now. You don't know who's, you have to, but back then you'd walk into the store and you'd see,
I mean, I know we could probably do a show about how the internet has affected the music.
Oh man.
The digital download.
Oh
and
man,
everything,
yeah,
so.
yes, yeah.
Teach or Was that
Well,
something-
I taught a little bit when I was in high school because, like I was telling you, the guy that was teaching me snare drum and stuff, he had so many students that he needed some help, and so I was one of his better students in his studio.
Mhm.
So he got me to okay, can you take some like, like beginner, students just to, because I can't handle all this, So I was doing that, just, here and there, and then I didn't do it after I got out of high school. I didn't do it anymore until I was approached to do it here in New York from these two schools that I'm at now.
Yeah, and so you're at Juilliard and
NYU.
Yeah.
Same thing I always have done. I still teach. I still teach based on what I know,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not really like a jazz drum school drummer. I didn't go to jazz drum school,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really have all that stuff together. I just teach the way I feel like I've figured out how to do what little bit I know how to do. So I just teach from that kind of, I think that there's a lot more students. I guess there's a lot more jazz programs around the country and around the world. There's a lot of young people seemingly interested in discovering jazz or learning about jazz. I'm not sure. Some people's motives may be a little different than perhaps they were, or that I would think of when I was their age. Because I would hope that people aren't getting into it to get famous or get compensated for it.
Mm-hmm.
Hugely compensated for it. You know what I mean? Because I'm hoping that they do it because they just won't accept anything else to do in their life. Like basically just love it. Just have a passion for it. And
Right.
That's what you want to do, and whatever comes with that, good or bad, I'm willing to make that sacrifice because that's all I know. That's all I want to do. I don't want to do anything else.
Wow, yeah.
And I'm hoping but I don't see that sometimes. I see that in people thinking that they're gonna be famous or be the best or this, that, and the other. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to be, quote unquote, the best. But in my opinion, there is no best. You do the best you can do, and you're amongst maybe you're amongst the best,
Yeah.
or you're amongst the people that do what you want to do in a professional way. You know what I mean? Because there's so many people that if it was going to be about success or fame or I can think of so many people that should be gazillionaires for what they've contributed to the music, but unfortunately they're not.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they're on the opposite. It's almost like you look at some people that you love and admire and worship to a certain degree because of their contribution or what they've done on their instrument or what they've contributed to music, and the compensation for it compared to, let's say, some other forms of music or whatever. It's sad to think what the disparity between the two. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. The music, yeah.
Yeah,
So sincere and
because I think of some of these people, there should be statues of Charlie Parker in every city in the United States, But different, the word jazz right now is, I don't know if that word is, I don't know if you can, I don't think all the music that's involved under this banner of jazz, perhaps the music itself has outgrown the term or something,
Yeah.
because what I think of as jazz you know, if you go to a jazz festival now, maybe what I think of as jazz is like there's might be 10% of what I think of as jazz in this thing that's called a jazz festival.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Not that I'm right or wrong. It's just that, you know, the what I was saying before. The music has probably outgrown the term, or the term doesn't fit the music anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the term still works, but you put this here if you want to put categories on it. But,
Right. No,
but,
I know.
but you know, you know,
Exactly. No, I know
yeah.
exactly what
Everybody has a different experience as a musician, so I think probably if you can just be honest about that and teach from your own experience, you know what I mean. You know, just be honest about that. Be honest about it. Come at it from an honest place. You know, like I try to come at it from an honest place. I mean, I know that I'm not. You know, I wouldn't try to teach like let's say from some book that I didn't like. I don't teach out of drum set books.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there are some great drum set books.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know all of them, but there are some.
Yeah.
And I know people that teach out of these books because they studied out of the books themselves. Right.
It's
So I would be kind of a charlatan if I was like, okay, get this book, this drum set book, and let's start page 2, and I would be BSing if I did that.
Right,
That's
yeah.
exactly it. Because I try to take students like from an individual point of view. You know, some students need this, some students need that, some students need, some students need like some nuts and bolts stuff. Some students can already play and they just need to be turned on. You know, like, hey man, have you ever thought about it from this perspective? Have you ever heard this music? This music will dictate how to approach it from your instrument's point of view. And so it might be a point of view that you're not familiar with, in terms of, application, because if you're going to come at it from your own little point of view that all you know about is this, that's not going to work for this music. So let's check this music out and maybe check out the drummers that play with this music and see what you think.
Yeah.
See what you can bring to it, add to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.